Hey, this is Happy Home with Dan and LaTane. We are a real estate couple that focuses on faith, family, and financial freedom.
So we're going to do episode 9. We're going to talk about educational resources, where to find properties, kind of a little bit of all of it, kind of where to get information.
Yep.
So
we were kind of just joking from our last podcast. So if you're still here, Tane and I were concerned that we were a little too harsh and stuff, but we just kind of wanted to get that point across of it's important that you're all in. So this will be a little more gentle, a little more easy on the
brain,
and a little bit easier on not getting defensive and getting frustrated at us. So, but we're going to talk a little bit about the educational side of things, because one thing that we alluded to before was educate yourself.
Always. Mm-hmm.
So, I told you that I was going to kind of just explain to people that things have evolved a lot. And, 20 years ago when we got started, Facebook groups, all these...
Anything online was not around.
It was not around. So the way that I started was I bought a real estate course that literally came in a binder. It had, I think, 8 or 12 cassette tapes, and it had about that much of reading material. And once you got through that, it was done. I mean, that was all the education. There was no, continuing to go. I bought books a lot.
We had a lot of books.
I
do want to interject for anyone younger listening. We might need to explain what a cassette tape is, because it's almost so foreign to talk about now, because you don't even see them anymore. I think that's just funny, because I remember you did have that. We still have that system on our shelf at your office. So it's kind of like a badge of honor at this point for us.
It absolutely is. So, now, just like marketing techniques were different 20 years ago, where I would do an ad in the newspaper, things like that. Educational's changed. At this point, one of the big educational or, forums that you can kind of get involved with is Bigger Pockets. When people ask me, where would you start? I think if I was starting, I think that would be a great spot, because there's so many
resources.
Yeah, I mean, you have multifamily, you have storage, you have all these different things, you have different people. And understand, this is just people putting opinions out. Some of them are more successful than others. But I think it's a good spot to kind of start, because it allows you to be exposed to a lot of different things.
It does.
And then from there, because there are so many online communities. I mean, there's multifamily communities, there's storage communities, there's, the BRRR, community. I mean, there's so many different communities you can, and personally, I've gotten plugged in with all of them.
Yeah, and that's, we see the ad, there's a group for everything. Truly there is. So just go, anything that you might be interested in, go search it out on whatever social media platform you're on. And you'll find a group and just start reading some of the comments,
start listening to some of the videos. And then what you can do is you can dig deeper. Mm-hmm. You get involved with a community, and, I'll give an example of, I see it all the time for Storage Rebellion. That was the group that I got involved with. And you'll get on, there's probably 6 or 7 different Facebook groups on storage. And people are like, well, where do I start? And it's, 2 or 3 people, and Storage Rebellion's one of them. Go. There's a lot of free material with that. So dig a little deeper. If you're wanting to do the Burr method, Nate Barger, he has a great Facebook group. Go get involved with that. He even does, like a mentoring coaching program. There's different things that you can dive deeper and deeper and deeper into. You can get to the point of going to masterminds. You can get to the point in some of these groups, some of these coaches will do coaching, like one-on-one coaching, so There is a lot of opportunity to educate yourself.
And I mean, even we have started small here in Cleveland, get involved with a local real estate group. You know,
True.
The one that we've had meet a couple of times so far, it's nothing fancy, no big agenda. It's just starting to build a network. It's people that are in real estate, people that want to be in real estate, people that may or may not. They are just interested. Get together, talk for a little bit, and just expanding your brain of who is in your circle and who more can I talk to and what more can I glean from.
Well, you think about from a sports analysis, an athlete, they don't go to practice one time and are at the peak, at the top. Make sure that you're getting involved. Locally, make sure you're getting involved with people. Because the thing is, when you start educating yourself as well, and this goes back to just being a little more open, for 15, 20 years, I read my books, I had my couple mentors, and that was the circle that we knew. Mm-hmm. It was when we started getting involved with some of these masterminds, and I literally came across an ad on Facebook for, a real estate group, and I just clicked on the thing, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. It was that community that I've been searching for that I didn't know about. Yeah. And honestly, the last 5-6 years since we've gotten into more of these communities, the education that we've got, I feel like we were very limited 5-6 years ago. It was a great foundation for once we found these groups. But now that we found these groups, it's just some of the people that we've been around, some of the people we've been exposed to.
It will open up your thinking so much more. And we've heard that comment a lot. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And you don't until you start getting exposed and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know that was out there. I didn't know people were doing this. But then suddenly your capacity to understand goes from so small to so big just from being around 10 other people that are doing real estate but doing it in a different way that you've been doing it.
10 different
ways.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's so cool. And you all glean ideas from each other. Yes. And just learning something new. And I agree with you. 5-6 years ago, we didn't even know any of that was out there. And when you started going to these mastermind groups and you came home and talking about all this, and then you and I went together a couple months ago, I was blown away that, oh my goodness, we're sitting in a room. Literally every other person in the room is doing what we're doing in a different way, being successful. I want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, just different stories. They started from different avenues of, I was in this career, I was in that career, and, some were husband and wives, and that was, to me, that moment that we went to that mastermind was so cool for me to see you, like the light bulb go off in your head of, wow, there is so much more out there than what we've been doing in our local market.
And that's because all of us, we live where we live. We live in our little circle. We come home to our families, and we're just living day in and day out, whatever life we have built. But you get confined to your everyday life and what you know.
Everyday thinking, everyday 15-mile radius, most people live within, and then most of the time.
You're exposed to all of these other ideas. They're like, well, I can do that at home. We can implement that and just expand just in this area or expand here. And it was just the ideas. And then knowing, hey, we're struggling with something. We're in a group of 15 other people. Let's throw it out there. Hey, what would y'all suggest? This is something we're dealing with. And it's not just education. It's a new resource. It's a new network to just add. And it just opens up your possibilities and your opportunities. And then you've gotten involved with so many of these groups online that you're finding deals all over the country and being able to look and say, hey, is this something we'd want to pursue?
Correct.
And it's just opening up.
It opens up your market.
It does.
It allows you to have other opportunity than just what's right here in front of, the 15-mile radius.
So with that being said, we want to talk about where you can find deals. And that is one. That's just one big thing. Anybody can get on in a Facebook group, wherever, an online group, and people are always posting deals. Hey, I came across this. It's wholesalers posting. It's people. Hey, I saw this. And so you're seeing deals all over, wherever market you want to look at.
And I told someone the other day, they were kind of asking me how I find my deals. And I have no one right way. I mean, like I said, we started by doing newspaper ads.
We did.
And we found a few deals like that. We did bandit signs. We did all that kind of stuff. But obviously we've been in it a while, so we do have people calling us and, just from that network. But if you're new starting out, get in every Facebook group, Instagram, anything that you can online, and put your email address out there. It doesn't hurt anything.
No.
Put your email address out there. I get stuff from North Carolina from a wholesaler's webpage. It's like I start looking at these and I start thinking, I wonder if I should look at this. It's a pretty inexpensive deal. The market seems pretty decent, so I would just get your email address out there to everybody. And I'll give a personal example that we haven't closed on the deal yet, but I was driving one day, I got a phone call and they said, hey, are you still looking for properties in Cleveland, Tennessee? And I said, yeah, I am. Why? And they said, well, we have a deal there if you would be interested. And I just was intrigued. I was like, well, how did you get my number? They're like, well, you were on our buyers list from about a year ago. They were out of California.
Yeah.
They were wholesalers out of California buying in little Cleveland, Cleveland, Tennessee.
Yeah.
But because I put that out there, it has brought us a deal. We're under contract. We're waiting for title work and everything else, but we'll close on that one. It'll be a good little rental.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I do is I'm always putting my name out there. There are websites. When you look more at your commercial, that type of stuff, storage, warehousing, is, your Crexys, your loop nets, that kind of stuff. The thing is with those are not, off market. Those are on the market. Anybody and everybody throughout the world can get access to those. Yeah. And I'll kind of go a little bit into this as well, is one of the things that I've told people, though, what's really cool about Crexy and LoopNet is a lot of times the broker will have an operating memorandum. And that gives you all of the information. So when you start, you don't have a clue. And if you can get some of this information, it might be, what's your population around the storage facility? What is the crime rates? How many storage facilities are around it? And they'll even give a breakdown of, the sizes. So you don't want to rely on that, but it also gives you the ability to go do your own research and look and say, okay, this does make sense what they're saying. And so you can start learning how to underwrite your deal better.
Yeah.
So I think that's a benefit. When you start looking at apartments, it's the same thing. They'll give you that. And you'll see the more sophisticated brokers to the non-sophisticated brokers when you're analyzing your deals, when they already have that information. Now, are there deals out there on Crexy and things? There absolutely are.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, one of my coaches, another thing he said is, when you look at like Crexy and these different websites, he said, keep on going. You might look for a apartment building in New Orleans, Louisiana. And Crexy's going to be up there. LoopNet's going to be up there. 10X is going to be up there. You look at those, but then you just keep on going through the web pages and you might go to page 5, page 6. And what you want to look for is you want to look for real estate listings that are mislabeled or listed improperly, in my opinion. Like, I found a storage facility that was listed with a residential realtor rather than with like a commercial realtor. And I found that, I think it was page 3 or 4. And I thought it was crazy when he told me that, because I was like, man, you're going through a bunch of pages. But I know of another friend that did the same thing. He found a great deal on one that was, 4, 5, 6 pages in, and it was just with a local. They don't know how to analyze the deal. All they're doing is they're saying, hey, I listed this for my friend's grandma that owned this.
They're just getting it out there.
They're just getting it out there. And it's really the people that are selling it didn't really have the proper marketing, the opportunity to get out there. But those are little golden nuggets that you can kind of work. And that's nothing more than just sitting on your laptop while you're watching TV with the family, just scrolling through. How many times have I done that?
Yeah.
You know, I know this sounds crazy, but Facebook, you know, for me has been a big one. I go to Marketplace.
Yeah.
And now, once again, is there just deals like, hey, here's your first great deal? No, this is you are digging. You are in there trying to find. And the other thing is, if you remember when I first started, I'd go look at everything.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and you might look at doing a market outside of where you're at. So you're going to have to do everything virtually. You're going to have to get on Google. You're going to have to do that, your research through your online resources. But for me, there was an education for me to go out and look at a house, talk to a seller.
That's the more you look at houses, the more you see. And the more you just start to learn and you see different things that come up. I mean, no house is just cookie cutter and they're all the same. I mean, so just if you're doing nothing more than going out and looking, just to start getting to educate yourself. Okay, you know, hook up with a local realtor. Tell them what you're doing. Tell them what you want to get started and be like, look, if you'll be patient with me and let me look at some stuff, when we come across what I feel like is going to work, I'm going to buy it with you, but be patient with me. And there are a lot of realtors that will be willing to do that because that is what they do.
Correct. And then in the same sense, ask them. That is one person to ask.
They are a resource.
Say, hey, you know what? I'm looking for, and give them your criteria. Say, this is my criteria. This is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
If you can find this, I'd love to buy this from you.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, don't just do that one time. Once again, where is your net worth? It's in your relationships. It's in your network. So call that realtor back and say, hey, I was just calling, you know, have you been able to locate anything? Hey, I saw this house over here. Is it something that you could show me? You know, and then once again, you're putting some work in too.
Yeah.
You know, let it be an easy thing for them, and then they're going to realize that you become a player, and they're going to want to help you. But in my opinion, I feel like realtors work for us, and so our local market, you know, we've got 2 or 3 different realtors that we work with. We're honest with all the realtors. You know, they know that we work with multiple realtors. But each one of them kind of have a little different thing that they do. You know, one's more of a commercial.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're looking in different markets, get different people. Call on, and back to, you know, digging in those 4th, 5th, 6th pages, call the realtors and say, hey, I saw that you had this storage facility. Oh, that thing sold 5 months ago. Oh, okay. Well, no problem. Do me a favor. If you don't mind, put me on your list. If you come across anything else like that, I would love for you to give me a call and give me first shot at it. Oh, by the way, I'm also interested in apartments. I'm also interested in this. So now you've just brought them a lead, and as they start seeing stuff come across their desk, they can give you a call. Now, are you going to get something from everybody?
No.
Absolutely not.
But the more you put your name out there, the more people are looking, the more you've just upped your chance of finding something from someone because you've got more people looking and working for you and what you're looking for. So realtors can be a great asset if you'll just talk to them and just tell, you know, hey, I'm new to this and I might not buy something quickly, but, you know, tell them. And, you know, the word gets out and you start talking to more people, the resources do start opening up the more you talk and the more you get your name out there.
And I know that we've said this before, but number one, let people know you're in business.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what we talked about in the last episode was make sure that this is what you want. Because what people get tired of is, hey, I started this network marketing job, or hey, I'm cutting grass and I'm doing this. And then it fizzles out. You got to establish that why. You've got to establish your goals, and then you've got to set your mind and say, look, I am in real estate. And then when you start telling people that, go get business cards made up. That was something else I've done. Hey, here's my card. You know, I'll stop at a house. grass grown up, roof looks like garbage, knock on the door, no one's there, I leave my business card. Or if I talk to the neighbor, hey, do you know anybody? When we first started, I was just talking to everybody and anybody and letting them know, look, I'm interested in buying property. Yeah. If you know anybody, look, I'll give you a bird dog fee. You find somebody, I'll give you $500.
Yeah.
Here's my card. Get people looking for you as well.
Yeah. That's how we found a commercial building.
That's right.
We were looking for. We had kind of been looking. It wasn't even something serious, but one of the houses we were flipping, the neighbor, who was very friendly, great, looking out for the house when we weren't there working. And I think in passing, you had mentioned we were just kind of looking for a shop area. And he found this great warehouse half a mile down the road and gave us all the contact information. I mean, you never know who will find something.
Correct.
Because the more you talk, again, the more people are looking, and you just never know where you're going to find a resource there that's going to say, hey, I did find something. Oh, okay. Well, that's great. I mean, I wasn't even expecting that from, this person that I had talked to.
Right.
So,
so that's kind of how we've done it a lot. As we have gotten more and more involved with some of the masterminds, getting involved with storage, there's always doing mailers. Mm-hmm. Just to be truthful, I did one mail campaign and I got a few calls, but it was not beneficial. I am a very good talker, obviously. I can talk. I'm not afraid to go and knock on a door. I'm not afraid to talk to 4 neighbors. I mean, you and the kids always laugh at me. They're like, oh, there goes dad again, and I'll talk to 3 neighbors just to find out what's going on. Hey, what do you know about this property? Mm-hmm. What's going on? So, but I think it is important as technology continues to drive things.
Mailers are a huge resource that we know people that do use them and use them very effectively.
Very, very effectively. Mm-hmm. And we're actually, when we went to that mastermind, we met somebody that does land flipping, and that's something that my son and I we're learning some stuff on because he wants to do more of that, make money, and to where he can buy some rentals. We actually, and this is kind of funny, is all this success that we've had, we actually bought a course from someone that we know that does land flipping. And, the main resource to that is actually sending out
mailers.
Mm-hmm. It's mailer. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be something that we're going to do. But and it's part of it is because you're looking around, not just in your local area.
Yeah.
So for us, we just haven't done it, and we've still had success in what we've done. But another thing that I've learned is just being at one of the masterminds that we were at was Landglide. It's an app. It's $10 a month, and you can literally get on there and type in an address, type in a city, type in a person's name, and it'll pull it up almost like the courthouse. And you can see who owns it, what they paid for it, their mailing address, stuff like that. So
what's funny is you've been looking for a resource that well refined for a while, because if you look up tax records or courthouse records, it's just a lot of times it's not updated very quickly, especially online. And after all these years, you found that app through another, investor, and it's just, you're always learning.
And each county, each state
is different.
If you can figure out one county the way that you can do it, that one next door is totally different. And so Landglide is something that it's just very user-friendly. It's, it doesn't give you huge amounts of information, but
it'll give you a starting point.
You can go in and you could, have a letter pre-typed up, and, if you want to work an area, and this goes back to the work thing. You know what? Pick an area. If you're wanting multifamily, start driving around.
Yeah.
The big thing is driving for dollars. That's what we used to do. We were so broke, we had no money to do anything else but go drive around back when gas was cheap. But we would go drive around, and what would we do? We'd look for houses.
We did.
And that's when we would talk, and we would it was kind of a little game for us. And then, I'd find a house and I'd leave a business card. I'd leave flyers and stuff like that. Now, and when I say we didn't do direct mailers, we have done. I mean, we've sent postcards and things, but we have not done mail campaigns.
No, I mean, I remember we did flyers when we were selling flips. We would go put flyers on cars at apartment buildings.
Yep.
And we sold a couple houses that way.
Yep.
I don't know that I would really recommend that now. People tend to get a little frustrated with putting stuff on their cars now, and I get it. But I mean, that was one thing that we did then. But with the internet and the resources, I mean, there's so many ways to just start finding different avenues.
But if you drove a neighborhood and you literally just wrote down their addresses, and then you go back home and you go to Landglide.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you do nothing more than say, I'm going to send 5 letters a week, anybody can take that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But once again, responsibility, putting it back on yourself and say, I'm going to take, I promise you, if you keep on doing that week in and week out, it might take a month. It might be your 100th letter. Eventually, if you keep on doing that, you are going to get a seller that is motivated, that is interested in talking to you. And then the next problem is going to be is once you get that lead, then you're going to be scared to death because you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So get to that point. You're going to be uncomfortable along each one of these steps. So I think that it's very, very important at this point is, we've talked about Crexie. We've talked about local realtors. You can, another one that I didn't even talk about, it hasn't been a big thing recently, but it'll get back to being big, is foreclosure websites. I used to go to a lot of the foreclosure websites and you can find that.
Yeah.
But your realtors, getting involved with local communities, getting involved with local wholesalers, get involved with local real estate groups. All these are different opportunities for you to get your name out there.
Yep.
Anytime you can talk about real estate, anytime that you can let people know that you're involved, that is what gets people to call you, to know that you're interested in this. We've been doing this 25 years. Everybody knows that we do real estate.
Yeah.
So when someone's talking about, hey, local investors, our name comes up because we're constantly buying. So, trying to think of any other way, I
think that's...
and I think you have to, another thing is you have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
Like I said, me going and knocking on someone's door doesn't bother me. I'm willing to do that because part of it, I just feel like, man, if I could find out who owns it and I could buy it, I could make so much on this flip. Or, I want this apartment building, so I'm going to knock on a tenant's door and say, hey, who's the landlord here?
Yeah.
And they'll give me the landlord's phone number and then I can call them. And so, but other people, it might be easier for you, for your personality to do the direct mailer. So let's talk about this too. This is something else. There's expense to direct mailers.
There is.
Where with us, we didn't have money back when we started. So we would go to Walmart and get the just 3x5 index cards. And that's what we would write little notes on. So your personality, your budget, if you're going to take and set a budget aside and you can afford to do that, I think mailers are great. Yeah. I think you get a lot of exposure. And with mailers, and we can get more into this, there's different companies that do mailers. They have like the back office to where you can organize some of those leads as you do your mailers and stuff like that. So there are so many resources out there, literally just get online, type in, one of the big ones is Batch Leads. They'll do mailers and stuff like that. But just do mailers, for wholesaling. And they'll just pop up. You start looking in there, start researching, call the company. They'll guide you. Yeah. They'll give you wisdom on what to do. So I think that's a good starting point of apps, websites, and how we find properties. Yeah. Just get involved. Let people know you're in the business of buying, what asset class you want to do.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I remember when we started, the big thing is, all cash. I have cash, we put it on our bandit signs. We didn't have cash. Sometimes you had to figure it out. It's kind of like that quote that we said, sometimes you got to just get in and start doing things. Mm-hmm. Now, we had resources.
We did.
We were prepared, but, you're not going to always have cash.
Yeah.
But, let people know that you're a player, that you can, and this will be the last thing I say. The other thing is when you get to that point, make sure you do what you say you're going to do.
Yes.
There's been a couple of times that we've run into situations, not that we couldn't perform, but yet we ended up having to back out of the deal. And it's a very uncomfortable situation. I don't like having to do that, but make sure that it's not because you don't have money or you don't have the ability to close. If you sign a contract with somebody, in my opinion, if it's a wholesale deal, if it's, you're buying it as a flip, if you're whatever you're doing, you need to be able to perform.
I agree.
That's part of your integrity.
I agree.
If you don't have your integrity, then don't do a contract.
Yep.
But there are going to be times that it's going to be a challenge to figure out funding. But if it's a good deal, you'll find the funding.
It. Yeah.
So
I agree.
Okay. Anything else that you can think that we need to add to with our resources?
No, I think that's
websites?
A good starting point. Just kind of get in there and start searching, and find what you can. And I'm sure there's some things that we definitely don't know about, and we'll be glad to hear anybody that has input on that.
And truly, I really feel like that is the case. I think that there are some people that are more tech savvy and, have a little more connections.
Yeah.
Like I said, this has just been the last 5 years for us. Yeah. So I think that there's huge amounts of resources, and take advantage of it. Take advantage of people's failures and successes.
Yeah.
Like I said, with all the apps, the websites, there's an app and a website for everything.
There is.
So research,
sure.
start looking.
Yeah.
And then worst case, if you have to go back to the old book, you can just buy a book.
There you go.
So, all right.